I am doing well. And Nancy was just going through the observations, what you wrote, the article you wrote after listening to the office of the special prosecutor's press conference. It seems you're suggesting that from everything you've read, the only reason this investigation was started was because the name of a relative of the former president had come up.
Yeah, that is true. To understand this point that the president was only interested in this matter because of the relationship between former President Mahama and his brother. That was the only reason, because these investigations or the facts that we are working with, or which prompted him to file his complaints, were from judgments from the US and the UK. And these judgments were on cases that were not really tried. They were not tried in court, so evidence was not taken, people were not really arraigned. What happened in those proceedings was that Airbus, which is a global company, has been accused under the British Bribery Act and the US Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which gave guidelines to British and American companies regulating and preventing them from engaging in corruption in foreign countries. Now, if you review this legislation, these two legislation, you will notice that they are not just, you are not guilty only because you have actually paid bribe. So the legislation gives guidelines as to how companies, American and British companies, should relate with business partners around the world. And in those jurisdictions, even if a third party, if you have a relationship such as the one that President Mahama and his brother had, and the British company is dealing with you, there are processes that you need to go through by declaring that you have this relationship, and then take certain steps to reduce the conflict of interest, consequences. If you fail to do that, under the British and American law, you are guilty of corruption. You understand? So if you read the special prosecutor's report, you will notice that the first point he made was that the things that may constitute corruption under those legislations may not necessarily constitute corruption in Ghana's legislation. That is because under those legislation, you don't have to actually even pay the bribe to be guilty of some of the offenses. A failure to even disclose certain relationships to the British authorities itself can make you guilty. So it is possible, since that case, those cases did not go on trial, it is possible, and we cannot tell whether actual bribe payment was a basis for Airbus paying those compensation. And let's understand this. Airbus was no one was really tried and convicted. It was a plea bargaining, what we call plea bargaining. So it means that a lot of the things that the Airbus people paid their fines for may not necessarily be actual bribe in the sense in which Ghana we look at bribe and corruption. So the only fact which was a real fact in the whole of those cases was the relationship between John Mahama and his brother. And the president cannot pretend not to know this, because apart from being a lawyer, I believe his office has lawyers who understand the British Corrupt Practices Act and the American Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, the British Bribery Act and American Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. And this is the point that we have been making from day one, that, look, you have these court cases that, well, it is the whole world. It's not even Ghana alone. It is Airbus paying those fines for their businesses across the world. So it's not as if the British people have investigated anything in Ghana and they have found that bribes have been paid and they are collecting, they are finding Airbus guilty. No. It is in respect of all their business dealings across the world. That was the subject matter of those cases. And when you come to Ghana, there is zero evidence that Ghana has made any losses. There is also zero evidence that actual bribes or bribes were paid to anyone in Ghana. You see. So now, if the president, upon this report or this document from court, personally,
Ghana,
put before a special prosecutor, a former president, to be investigated. And this was done in February 2020, about a few months of the election. So it should tell you the mentality of the president when he did this. And when this was done, obviously, we knew from day one that there is no basis for this complaint in the first place, and there's not going to be any evidence from it to support anything worthy of anything. And here we are yesterday, that position has been confirmed. And let's be upfront with it. Former President Mahama has been emphatic on this from day one, that look, I have no underhand dealing with this company. I have not seen anyone, no one has even approached me with anything like this. And you see, because of that, he opened himself up for the investigation to be conducted. And that is one point that people are not even talking about. He voluntarily and fully submitted himself to the investigation process. No one does such a thing if he knows that he has done something wrong, he has benefited from anything, or his brother has done anything wrong. And so it was clear from day one that, look, there was nothing in this, and this was not going to go anywhere. It was just a political gimmick that the president wanted to use the Office of Special Prosecutor for. And if you read the report again, you will notice that, contrary to the false claims that they were making, that President Mohammed's brother didn't have any experience in aviation, and so he couldn't have been a genuine agent for Airbus. That was false. His brother had obtained a pilot license way back and has been agent for Airbus, not just in respect of Ghana, but in about 15 countries, including Kenya and other countries in Africa. And so it was not as if the things that we see today, where companies will be opened yesterday and then they will get contracts of millions of dollars today, and nobody in that company actually has any money, and then they use the contract. Those are not what we are talking about. This is someone who has been an agent for Airbus for some time, and Ghana is just one tiny fraction of the businesses he has been doing for Airbus. And all these things were known. So President Mahama didn't have any problem. He opened himself up because he knew he did nothing wrong, and there's actually nothing wrong. And yesterday, the vindication came. But you see, the most important point is that it appears the president himself understands that when your relatives are roaming around you in public office, you are doing something wrong, and you are opening yourself up to corruption. So then the question is, so if he knew all this and was ready to put a former president on trial on the mere fact that his brother was involved in a business which involved the republic, then you ask yourself, what has he been doing in this country? Because the things we see and hear and know about him, his relatives, what would he be expecting? So it's a bit more, it's also a bit hypocritical to drag a former president through criminal process. Okay, personally, you submitted the complaint to drag a former president through trial, criminal process, for things that you yourself are basically swimming in. You get the point I'm trying to make.
And I'll come back to those two conclusions you make. But before that, it seems you're suggesting that the only way in which whatever decision was made in the UK, the US, and France would have been important to us, would have been relevant to us, is if there is proof that a bribe was paid, and secondly, if there is also further proof that some loss had been occasioned to Ghana. Without those two circumstances, they will be relevant.
Our laws, we have bribery, we have law against bribery and corruption, and we know what bribery is. When you give money to someone or give something of value to someone in anticipation of some favor from official circle, That is basically what bribe is in our country. Then we know the second offense that will be likely to be faced with is causing financial loss. So these are the laws we have, and then we have failure to protect public assets. That's the NRC decree. So these are the laws that we have, and I'm sure you see every time when they are prosecuting someone or a public official for some of these things, it is either causing financial loss, bribery or corruption, or failure to protect public assets. So that is what our laws know. So if you want to bring such a thing and you want to investigate such a thing in Ghana or make a complaint, at least you have some basic evidence of this. But here, the basic evidence, as I've pointed out, is that there's a relationship between a former president and someone who acts as agent for Airbus.
Because
and you see, this thing happened between way before President Mahama became president. At the time, I think he was just the vice president at the time.
Yes.
But when the propaganda is pinned and the report was filed, all those things were ignored and made it look like the president was the president and he had absolute control over the purchase of Air Force equipment. And then this happened.
I see. So the fact of whether or not he's government official one that most papers aligned to the MPP are going with, to you, it's not relevant to this investigation.
From day one. You see, media guys have a way of projecting what you want people to, what you want to tune people's mind off something or to something. So I can understand why some of the media houses will focus on that. But is that news? That obviously is no news. Martin Amidu, who started this investigation, has been on that point. He has made it explicitly clear from day one that the official or government official one is President Mahama. And nowhere has anyone, that has never been in dispute. Has it been? I don't recall anyone disputing that government official one or individual one, as the Americans refer to him, is President Mahama. And so the question has never been whether the question is, even if it's President Mahama, has he done anything wrong? That was the issue. So if today, and I can understand. I'm not a media person, but I have a good idea how media, editors think and how they do their work. They do their work based on where their interests lie. So if you say that it has been confirmed that President Mahama is government official one, the question is not who is government official one. The only reason why government official one is even an issue is because of allegation that there has been corruption, he has been received bribes. And so if the basis of being government official one is wrong, then the question of who is even government official one is, it just has to be logical. It's not even you don't need to go to school to understand that who government official one is not the issue. You don't need to go to any school. If you're a human, an adult person, and you have followed this, you will know that the issue is not who is government official one. So the media, those who are publishing this, they have in mind a certain consumers, certain readers who would be excited that government official one is President Mahama. Then the question that an intelligent person will ask such a person is, so what? When you ask so what, then it ends the matter, because then you will dawn on the person and the publishers that they are not serving the public interest, they are just misbehaving.
Very interesting. Then let me conclude with you on the 2 points you made, the 2 observations you made to conclude your article. Now, very interesting observations. Why did you put those 2 observations in the article? Because I was just speaking to Godwin Edujekujo Tamaklo, who was saying that it's an interesting precedent that has been set. Why make these 2 points?
Yes, so these 2 points are important because we are living in a country where we are made to believe that there is nothing wrong if you bring your relatives into government, if your relatives are doing businesses with the Republic, and it's actually, and the question they often ask you, are they not Ghanaians too? So for the past 7 years, we have been on this trajectory of trying to tell people of Ghana and the government that there is a problem when you pack your relatives into government and you give them opportunities to work with government without necessary checks in place. And they've rejected all this. And while they are rejecting this, the president himself, this is not like the an ordinary citizen going to make a complaint. This is the complaint from the president himself, who is saying that I suspect that something has been done wrong. And the basis of my suspicion is that the former vice president, who later became president and former president, had a brother who had done some business with the government. So investigate and find out if they are bribed, they have been bribed or not. So that is, first of all, hypocrisy that is causing that. And so it tells you that the president knows very well that when you are throwing your relatives into government business, when you are the head of government, there's a problem. So he knows. And then the second point is, well, if you can start criminal investigation on merely the fact, one single fact that there's a relationship between the public official and the other party to the business, then interestingly, we are safe. This country is going to be a very safe place we are going to weed out corruption, because then nobody will be allowed to do the same thing and not be questioned and not be investigated. You see the point? So now it is clear, the precedent has been set that you can begin criminal investigation purely on grounds that a public official, a high public official, has a relative or a relationship with someone who is on the other side of government transaction. You know what that would mean? Yeah. Let's leave it there.
And I said that was my last question, but I also noticed that there's one other conversation we had recently. You're not the only one who's giving this advice. I've spoken to a few lawyers who have also said same, that Attorney General should cut his losses and not take up this matter any longer. Are you surprised he decided to go ahead with his originally disclosed intention to go to the Supreme Court?
Well, I am not surprised that he did that, because the Attorney General we have has not been someone who reflects over things deeply. Okay? So I'm not surprised he did that. But it's a very interesting appeal, because you see, there's a point which lawyers have been haggling over for a very long time, which is, what is the standard of proof for determining that there is a prima facie case? I hope that the courts will look at that again. But unfortunately, these are not the kind of cases that you expect to bring out a lot of legal, fine legal points, because the case is muddled with, it's in the middle of too much political, issues. But I thought that the best thing to do is to just end it where it has ended. Because you see, the point still remains that whether Honorable Fortune got authorization from the substantive minister. That is the sticking point. That is the point we are trying to answer. Already the law tells us that when you close your case and there is an element of the allegation which is open to double interpretation, one leading to guilt and one leading to innocence, then prima facie case has not been made up. As at the close of the case, that is what the Court of Appeal is saying. As at the close of your case, we are not sure whether an essential element of the offense, whether an essential fact allegation that the accused person did not have authorization, that question has not been answered. What it means is that it is still open whether he got the authorization or not. And the rule is straightforward, is that, look, if there is a doubt, it inures to the benefit of the accused person. So if the question is open, whether he got authorization or not, if that is a doubt, And the only way that doubt must be the benefit of the accused, which is that he got the authorization. In any case, granted that you even allow, the court allows you to go ahead. You have refused to call a material witness to prove your case. And I know why he refused to call the material witness, because the material witness, even outside court, has made it clear that he gave authorization. Which is Mr. Setepe. Mr. Setepe has maintained that he gave authorization for the thing to be done. And that is why the Attorney General was refusing to call him, because he knows that the evidence he will give will collapse his case. So granted that the court even allows you to go on with the trial, and he asked Honorable Atufosin to open his defense. If he calls Honorable Setepe, and Honorable Setepe comes to say that he gave authorization, does that not end the case? So why would you take all of us, the whole country, through something like this? I don't see any serious legal point in the appeal. To be honest with you, I personally have looked at it. I don't see any serious legal point there. But I mean, as you see, the law is in the bosom of the judge, so, and he has the right to appeal, and he's exercising that right. Let's hope that things will go on well, and we'll see the end of this matter. And at the end of the day, the law will be richer. We lawyers will be more, confirmed. We affirm our views on certain aspects of the law. So, well, that's what I can say about his decision to appeal.
Doc, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, my brother.
Dr. Justice is like I said, he's a practicing lawyer. You see him in court most of the time. He also lectures the law. So, two things that he does quite effectively. First, let me say a big thank you to Kate Bless, Joachim Hosedo, Nisaki,